Take me to the lake. I'ma try my best to slay all of these snakes. This is a tribe called Cypress.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 49, Cascadia Hockey Podcast. We are doing things a little bit differently today. We are down a man in studio. Corey is out with some sick children this morning. But I'm here with my wife, Anya. I'm here with Derek, and I'm Aaron. And on the phone, I am super stoked to have a good pal of mine, Kwame Mason, all the way from, where are you at? Are you in Toronto today?
I'm in Toronto today, man. I just got back from LA, so you caught me on a good day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you are a hard dude to get in touch with, man, but you are doing some great things. One of the reasons, I'll give a quick background to the listeners. One of the reasons we've got Kwame on is the Soul on Ice stuff with the hoodies and the T-shirts and all that. Kwame and I have been working together with that the last couple years, but Kwame is the one that really, he's the man behind Soul on Ice, the whole idea, the film and all that. And that was your first project, wasn't it, that you put together, your first film project?
Yeah, it was my first film. I was a radio announcer for about 14 years and kind of got fed up with that world. And just trying to think of something different. I always wanted to do film and television, so I was just like, hey, man, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it now. So I just jumped into the world and just created my first documentary, which is Soul on Ice, Past, Present, and Future, because I love history, I love the game of hockey, and I wanted to talk about, a piece of the game's history that people never really talk about,
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's something that was near and dear to my heart when you and I touch base, because, my oldest son is he's black and he's in an all-white family. Just,
right.
Say it how it is. I adopted him. My wife is his biological mom, but I adopted him. And just the issue of race and different things that everybody's got to deal with was something that was always near and dear to my heart. And being a part of hockey for so long for me, it's quote unquote, it was a white man's sport for such a long time. And there's so much hatred and bigotry around the game. And I thought what you did was amazing by bringing things to light. And that's one of the cool parts about being able to work with you. So,
yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Here's the thing. Here's where we're at right now. One of the reasons specifically I wanted to have you on was to talk about Mr. Don Cherry. Mr. Grapes, whatever people want to call him. You have a better perspective than we do because you're Canadian. And it's just that simple. Here in America, Coach's Corner and what that institution means is not as big as it is for people in Canada. So you've got a different perspective, and you've got some friends that are on the inside of that. So give me your general take on what went down with this. I mean, not even necessarily like a recap, but just, has this been something that's been building over time and it just finally reached a head, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, like you said, Coach's Corner is kind of like a staple in Canada as far as television broadcast goes. If you're a hockey fan and if you're Canadian, you've seen and you've appreciated, Coach's Corner with Don Cherry and Ron McLean, and the whole hockey world, knows of him in some way, shape, or form. So knowing that history, or being part of that history of the game, you've kind of seen Don Cherry at his best. You've seen Don Cherry at his worst. Mm-hmm. And Don Cherry is the kind of person who speaks off the cuff, very abrasive, very unforgiving. And I mean, that's kind of like his shtick, that's his thing. And people either love him or hate him for that. And for the most part, those who don't like him, they just they don't watch,
Yeah.
And for those like myself, I've always watched. I've always waited for Coach's Corner. I don't like after the first period on Saturday night. I don't leave. I mean, I'll get a little snack, but as soon as I know that Coach's Corner is on, I always sit down and watch. You know, he always had like really good analysis. And my whole thing was I always liked when he talked about hockey. Now the problem for me and the problem for a lot of people was when he would veer off and he'd talk about other things. And it just kind of got kind of cringeworthy. Like he's so pro-Canadian. And sometimes it can come across with an arrogance or a bigoted feel. And, you know, this past situation was one of those things where, you know, he just kind of went there with it. And so going back to your question, has this kind of been bubbling? It has, in the sense that, you know, we kind of had this feeling like, and which is really interesting. At the beginning of the year, I thought, like, I always think to myself or talk to my friends, I say, you know, what's going to be what's going to be the theme this year, and what's going to be the storyline, what's going to be the thing that happens in hockey, because every year something happens big.
Right.
And in discussing that with some of my friends, I said, you know, Don Cherry needs to watch himself. I mean, it's a whole new ball game right now. It's a whole new world we are in. And lo and behold, he just goes off on the deep end, makes a comment, and here we are. He's gone, and you know, the company's trying to move on, and the nation's trying to move on. But it's a very tricky situation, because here's his excuse, or if you talk to anybody that's pro Don Cherry, their first thing is, well, what did he say that was so wrong? Or he meant to say all people, not you people. And the thing that I try to tell people, and you know, I've done a couple of interviews on radio and television about this.
Right.
I don't know if he should or should not have been fired. That's something that I'm still on the fence with. I don't know, because I'm a very firm believer of teachable moments, and I feel that this situation, there was a teachable moment that we just missed because it was reactionary and he was gone quickly. I think we could have had a really firm discussion. I had suggested that, you know, the CBC or Sportsnet, they do a special broadcast about, you know, race in the sport, and literally have community leaders sit in front of Don Cherry and say, this is why what you said was wrong, and have Don Cherry speak his piece. And then at the end of it, you know, I mean, we kind of try to get to a point where we are in a better place. But now there's no way of doing that. So now what you have done is you've divided a world, and you've divided us not against teams, but you've divided us around an issue. And that issue is, you know, minorities against non-minorities, you know, immigrants and poppies and all that. Like, it's just something we didn't really need to have. But sometimes I think when you're put in these situations, it's good to have these conversations because you kind of know where people stand. And so, you know, to make a long story short, with the Don Cherry thing, it's like, my stance is, I don't know if he should or should not have been fired. But the one thing I will say definitely is, be honest in the conversation. And I think that's the one thing that both sides aren't honest on. So, for example, those that are Don Cherry fans are very dishonest when they say, oh, he was talking about everyone. No, he wasn't talking about everyone, because he said, you people who come here to Canada and enjoy our foods, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
He's talking about migrants. That's a fact. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, there was a television show called The Social where a lady got on there and she was just like, when I grew up, all these hockey players were white and they were jerks and this and that and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
Don't put hockey players in that light. So I look at both sides and I just say, be honest. You know what I mean? You can love Don Cherry, but still say, you know what? I love the guy, but what he said was wrong. And you can be against Don Cherry to say, I don't like the guy, but man, I wish we could have had a conversation and figured it out. So that's where I stand with this whole Don Cherry mess.
You know, that's a really good point, my man. I really like what you're saying there, is because these issues, they seem to get so polarizing, and I'm of course, you guys see all the political crap that we're dealing with here in the U.S. For the last forever, even pre-Trump days, but everybody just picks a side and nobody wants to work together, and I think that's a really interesting take on the thing. You are good friends with Ron McLean, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I don't consider, like, it's not like we exchange Christmas gifts, but, like, I spoke to Ron just the other day, and and I really feel for that guy. I really feel for that guy.
I know that you've got a relationship with them. We've got a good friend of the show. Used to play for the Tri-City Americans. He's from. He's actually playing hockey in Carleton right now, in Ottawa, Carleton University.
Carleton, yeah.
But he's head up a Humboldt event the last 2 summers up in St. Albert, Alberta. He was friends with a couple of the guys that were on the bus, and he has nothing but good things to say about Ron McLean. And I think that a lot of people are now polarized on Ron as well.
Oh yeah.
I always look at I'm trying to find the character of a person, and I think that a lot of times what we see can be misconstrued. And I'm hearing, what you have to say positive about Ron and what my buddy Parker has positive to say about Ron. And it hurts me to see how polarized people are around him, because I think that he's a good person. On the flip side of that, I'm getting somewhere here, I promise. On the flip side of that, a lot of people have come out, even with Don Cherry. I know Bobby Orr, stuck up for him and was talking about how he's just such a good person and all this sort of stuff. But I don't think anybody wants to hear that. They just want to make a conclusion and go to one side of the aisle. And that's what's been frustrating for me.
I agree. And I think... when it comes to the Ron McLean side of it, it's like, he just got caught into a very bad situation. I'm gonna move. I'm sorry. I'm shopping at the same time.
You're fine, man.
It's really loud. But I think Ron got caught into a really bad situation, and he's stuck in a rock and a hard place. Like, what was he really supposed to do? A lot of people are just like, well, why didn't he say something right there and then? I'm like, you don't understand television broadcasting, and you don't understand the timing of that, which is, there's no fault of anybody. It's like, you're just a fan of the show and you're watching and you're wondering, like, why. But a lot of people that were against it, they were seeing these clips off of YouTube and stuff like that. And so you don't understand the timing of it. And then it's like, when somebody says something so polarizing, you need time to sit and process it, and then come back and have a conversation. I don't think Ron was able to do that. Now, in Ron's defense as well, he did recognize that he missed an opportunity to stand up and say something during that broadcast. Not that segment, but that broadcast. Like, when they came back on air, I believe he wishes he had said something, even if it was around Kelly Rudy or all those guys, or bring Don back in and have that discussion. But sometimes, man, when you're in the heat of the battle working, it's like, some things just slip your head, and then, the next day got it. So this is something that Ron's going to have to live with for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
I told him that this is one of those moments in time where God, Allah, Buddha, whoever you believe in, is testing you to see where you're going to go with it. And, he's trying his best. I mean, even on Saturday,
Yeah.
I messaged him. I said, today is a very important show, and even he'd probably admit that he missed that boat as well, because it kind of came off very apologetic to Don Cherry. And my whole thing to him is like, you need to talk to the nation, because there's two sides to this. You need to bring both sides together to kind of cut out the ill rhetoric.
Yeah.
You can have your opinion, But when you have that ill rhetoric that is neither conducive to moving forward, that's where we need to stop. And I think he missed an opportunity to do that. He's a very heart-spoken type of person. And sometimes when you speak from the heart, you try kind of go on to a tangent and you just go where your heart leads you. But when you're speaking from the heart, you also have to know when to rein that in and be like, okay, I need to focus on something. So, so for Ron, it's like it's sad because of how people are perceiving him. And again, even with Don Cherry, it's just like Don Cherry's in my film, and I can analyze Don Cherry as a person in a second. Like, he's a very forceful, demanding kind of a person.
Mm-hmm.
The label of calling him a racist, no, he ain't no racist. Is he an old man with bigoted viewpoints? Yeah, he is, but we all have bigoted viewpoints.
Sure.
Let's all be real here.
Yeah.
Let's all not lie and pretend like one of us has not been bigoted. We all have it. His problem is he don't keep it to himself. He just spews it out. You know what I mean?
There's
but
no
is
filter.
He going, yeah, but like when people say the whole thing with racist, I'm going, okay, so why would a racist allow a black man to come into his studio, put a camera in his face, and talk about black athletes in hockey? No racist would do that.
Yeah.
So you can't call him that. That's just like, I won't allow anybody to call him that. Is he bigoted? Does he have bigoted viewpoints? He sure does, but we all do. So
that you are so right on. We want. Oh man, this is good. We want to such distance ourselves from racism and all that we can't always admit that we absolutely have some bigoted views. And that's one of the cool things about being able to live our lives, though, man, is that we get to go through and we get to learn and we get to change. I mean, I tell my kids that all the time. Just because your opinion is one thing one day doesn't mean you can't learn something new and have that opinion be changed,
Yes, exactly.
So, man, such good stuff. Where do you see like that coach's corner? I know it's not officially coach's corner anymore, but where do you see happening with that segment now? I saw what Ron did this past Saturday. I watched the clip. I felt bad for him. It seemed like it was a really uncomfortable. It was a really uncomfortable time for him there. But where do you see that going now?
Man, your guess is as good as mine. Just from a business perspective, you have to kill it now. It's got to be gone. You can't revive it. You can't rebrand it. You got to do something totally different with that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And those are some
a lot of money
shoes to fill.
Going to be lost there too. So, pardon me. Say it again.
I was going to say that's some really big shoes to fill too. Yeah,
and do you want to? Like, why would you want to put yourself through that? Like, it was just like when they replaced Ron with George Stroumboulopoulos, who's also a really good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, why would you want to do something like that? Like, you're just asking for naysayers or issues. You got to just come fresh, do something totally different, and just go from there. But it's a really, you got to take this situation and say, what can we learn from this and how can we grow from this? And one of the things is the issue of the look of hockey and how it's perceived. And it's very much that white Anglo-Saxon male, it just looks like that and just feels like that. And one of the things I said to Ron was, Ron, man, like, you guys gotta step up your game. This is 2019. We're going into 2020. The world is different. It looks different. And no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it's going to change. You know what I mean? It's going to change. Why do you think in America it's so polarized against migration? Because the powers that be understand the facts. Mm-hmm. They understand the analytics, the numbers that say that in 20 to 30 years, it's going to be a totally different look. So they're trying to get their stake right now. Yep. So when it comes to the game of hockey, it's just like, when are we going to give us a different viewpoint? When are we going to stop tokenizing situations where as you've got a hockey night broadcast and you only have one black broadcaster? You don't have an Asian one, or you have the Punjabi night in Canada, but you don't have it on the main broadcast. You're not inclusive enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When are you going to open up your staffing? When are you going to change that look? I one point that I made is like on Sundays they have hometown hockey, and every week they bring out 2 kids, minor league kids, that come and do the 3 stars. And I said to Ron, Ron, when are you going to throw in a kid that's black or Asian or East Indian? When are you going to change that up? And those things are very important to communities and all communities, because it makes us look as if what we project on television is what's represented in our streets. And I think that's the biggest thing that hockey needs to do. And I'm not saying that you just got to hire hockey players that are of different colors just to, get some quota. I want the best players on the ice at all times.
Right.
But I'm talking this, I want the inclusion to be from the top to the bottom. And I want the accessibility to be from the top to the bottom. So going back to where Hockey Night Canada Coach's Corner can be, man, it's just it's something totally different.
I like that. And you're absolutely right. The game, hashtag hockey is for everyone. And my question still stands, like, how many people that use that really truly believe that hockey's for everyone? Because it's either all or nothing when we take a stand like that. And I've seen a lot of people around the game that I don't believe they really believe that hockey is truly for everyone. Hockey is for most.
You know what, though? Let me interrupt you. I think they all believe that hockey is for everyone. The issue is, do they feel that hockey has a place for everyone?
Okay.
Is hockey going to include everyone? Yeah, of course, hockey is for everyone. Everybody can have hockey, but it's how far in hockey can you have it? You know what I mean? You can say to a Hispanic kid, you know what, hockey is for everyone, and it's for you. But as far as I'm going to let you get in hockey is just playing on the streets with your friends. I'm not going to allow you the ability to play with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, hockey definitely is for everyone. That's not the issue. It's just like when you talk to me about diversity and inclusion. Diversity is not a problem. Diversity, our nation, our game, it's always been diverse. The problem has been inclusion. If we don't have people sitting at the table to make these decisions, then we're going to always have these things that run amok. We need to be more inclusive in our society. Our society's always been diverse. Don't let anybody tell you that we're not diverse. It's always been diverse. The game of hockey has always been diverse. The game of hockey has just not always been inclusive.
That's good.
That's a good way of saying it. Derek, you look like you're chomping at the bit down there.
No, I mean, I just I love what he's saying. It is a reflection right now of the entire whole.
Yeah.
From what he's saying, from top to bottom, as far as executives go, as far as scouts go, as far as who's running the USA Hockey Leagues, it's a reflection of that. So you're not going to get the Hispanic kid sitting there. He's going to gravitate towards something else because they are doing a poor job of letting him know that they would like him to come and play as well. So he made a perfect point, putting all the kids on the ice or putting the best players on the ice, right? Well, the best players right now are going to be a sampling of who's playing. So if you don't have any of this minority segment even interested in playing because they feel excluded from the get-go, they're never even going to have an opportunity to know that they could be one of the top 5 on the ice.
Right.
Or 6. So,
yeah.
Kwame,
And I mean, like I'll say this: the NHL is doing a terrific job right now with their social impact movement. Google a lady by the name of Kim Davis and look at all that she's been doing for the league right now, and it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenon right now, man, and it's going to grow. But whenever her and I talk, one thing that we've always talked about was the fact that this is not something that's going to change next year, the year after. This is going to take some time. And I always say that I'm going to be old and gray. And I will look at the television and I will see a more inclusive game. And I'll be really proud of the work that we've all done at this grassroots moment. You know, we can't expect it to change overnight. We have to take our time with it, and we got to keep it moving. It's so funny. I'm like in Walmart right now, and I'm at the kids section looking at all the books, and there's a lot of hockey books up there for children. And like, I'm looking at them, and it's all white kids, white kids, white kids, white kids, white kids. I'm just like, man, you know, it'd just be great to see, you know, all these things look different. And, you know, and I mean, I don't want your viewers to think that I'm on some like, you know, we got to be anti-white, we got to change it. I'm just saying, I just want to see a mix.
Right.
I want to see when I'm in Walmart, I see black, white, Hispanic, I see everybody. That's what I want to see reflected in our books, on our television, in our offices. That's what I want to see, because when you have that, you have opinions from all places. So let's just say Coach's Corner, Hockey Night in Canada, had a very inclusive workforce where Don Cherry's co-workers, the ones that are prepping and getting stuff ready, were from different places of the world. And imagine if he was interacting with them and having conversations with them about how they grew up, their foods, their experiences. I guarantee you those rhetorics that he has would change, because he would get a different understanding of people and how they grew up. Don Cherry never grew up with minority kids or minorities in a full-time capacity. So how can he be empathetic to what they feel or what they don't feel? Because most of the time when people are like that, when they say stuff like, oh, you people, and they just like, well, why is that wrong? It's because you're not empathetic to why that statement is wrong. Like that's been told to me. Like, trust me, I've been places where people are like, you people, you come here, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just like, yo, that's just like, yo, honestly, for minorities, that's like dropping the N-word or something, man. It's like people don't really understand it. And then the one thing they'll say is like, oh, you're being soft and you're being very sensitive. I'm like, yo, don't tell me about how I'm sensitive, because you don't know my life experiences. Why not just be empathetic and be like, yo, because at the end of the day, my thing is, if I say something and it bothers you, it may not bother me, but I have to say to myself, you know what, man, step out of your shoes and just have some empathy for the guy over there. And maybe that bothered him. And even if it doesn't bother you, it bothered them. So respect their feelings and say sorry.
And that's exactly what brings us back to this Don Cherry situation, is the fact that he's so far been unable to recognize that his words have actions other than what they mean to him personally.
Yeah. That's true.
And he's yet to apologize. And so can you have a conversation with that type of person that's unapologetically going to say, I don't know what I did wrong. This is how I feel, and I'm going to say it.
I think you can. I think you can, because at the end of the day, he has to take whatever he has to take. But if nobody explains it to him, then he's not going to have it. So I can explain. I mean, I could sit and talk to Don Cherry and tell him how it's wrong and how it's wrong. And he can say to me, like, you know what, Kwame, I don't see it. I'm still not going to say sorry. I'll feel better walking away, because I'm like, now it's on you. It's not on me no more.
Yeah.
It's on you. I've given you the knowledge of self. If you can't take that knowledge and run with it, then, yo, bro, you know what? That's on you. You live with yourself. But up until this time, nobody's ever told Don what's up. And I even said that to Ron. I said to Ron, I'm like, yo, nobody's ever checked Don the way he should have been checked. Everybody's kind of walked on eggshells with Don Cherry in their offices because he's Don Cherry.
Yeah.
No one's ever said, you know what, you should shut up, man. You should really stop saying that. No one's ever said that to him. So
that's a good point. I like what you say too about empathy. I think, you know, a lot of people like to throw the term snowflake around, and I've been guilty of that as well. But empathy does not equal weakness. Everybody's so scared of being weak, you know, quote unquote. But empathy does not equal weakness, and I think that's what people forget a lot of times. Just because, you know, I admit I don't know something about somebody else and I need to learn, that doesn't mean I'm weak. That means I'm wanting, you know, to learn about that person, but I have to be open to it. And a lot of people just aren't open to it.
Exactly.
We see it a lot. I mean, we live in a very milky white area of Washington State where we're at on the east side. It's I don't want to get into the whole politics of it and everything, but there's a lot of racism around here, and a lot of that quote unquote good old boys and all that sort of thing, and it's sickening. And even our local team here, not the team itself, but some of the fans of the team, you can see that glimmer of racism in their eyes. To be honest with you. And it's just it drives me crazy, man. It's such a bigger issue. I at some point I would love to have you out here and do a presentation of the movie and everything. I
actually, you know what's so funny? I actually did a screening at Washington State University over there.
Really?
I flew into Seattle and drove into that. That shit was crazy.
Was it
mountains or something?
Was it Washington State University or was it just University of Washington?
I think it was Washington State, if I'm correct. So am I in the wrong place? Or?
Were you in the middle of a wheat field?
It was pretty. I had to fly to Seattle, and then we had the bus there.
Oh wow! I'm surprised they didn't have you come into Spokane, which is closer and has an international airport. But yeah, I'm sure it sounds like WSU to me and my alma mater. So
you literally flew into one side of the state and then drove to the other side of the state to go to the university.
Right? Yeah.
So hey,
I just remember it was snowing really hard. So.
Just because I might not have this opportunity again. Are you aware? I mean, I'm sure you're aware of. Do you know a lot about or have studied Buck O'Neil and anything about the Negro League Baseball League and Hall of Fame or anything like that?
No, not much. I make reference to it when I talk about the Club Hockey League of the Maritimes, but no, I don't know much.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, your knowledge is invaluable. I'm very excited and really proud of you, just knowing you now over this short conversation, that you're spreading this message is phenomenal. I can't wait to see your film. One of the greatest days of my life was sitting in a 8x10 radio studio for 3 hours with Buck O'Neil, just listening to him telling stories and spreading the knowledge. And he did a great presentation. He's passed on now, of course. But it was one of the most important days of my life, being a younger white kid that didn't have a lot of life experiences, because where I grew up, we weren't very cultured here. So I love it, man. His story is phenomenal. He changed my life and the direction of my life just listening to him. And so I'm very proud of what you've done, and I hope you keep doing it and spreading the message.
Well, you just proved my point right there. It's when you open your mind to different cultures or different ways of life or different stories, you just give yourself a wider viewpoint of life. That's why I always tell people, I'm like, get on a plane and travel somewhere. And I'm talking outside of your country. Go somewhere where people don't look like you.
Yeah.
And just see how they live. Like, that's my thing. Like, people say to me, like, hey, do you want to go to Jamaica, or do you want to go to I don't want to go to the West Indies where I see people that look like me. I want to go somewhere like Thailand, like Hong Kong, like I want to go them places so I can just sit with the elders and the OGs there and just kind of feel what they feel, or hear their experiences, so that when I come home I could be worldly. You know what I mean? I don't want to just sit in my four corners. And I think all races in, the traditional North America are guilty of sitting in the square box. I always say that to people too. I said, with this growth of the game of hockey for the black community has to take on a lot of responsibility as well. We can't just sit there and just wait for hockey to
expect it to come.
Hand us everything. I'm like, yo, we gotta step up and just be like, yo, we want to participate. So how do I get my kids in this game? Like, it's got to be a partnership. We can't just sit back. Everybody's got to do their part. And
which is even more important. It's even more important than that someone of quote unquote legendary status can't be on TV saying you people putting people in a box. And that's why we just can't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I agreed.
Man, I appreciate your insight, buddy. I wanted to, real quick before we let you go, what do you have coming up? I know last year you did a lot with the traveling exhibit with the NHL, during February and all that stuff. What's on your plate coming up for this season?
So, we're putting together, like last year for Black History Month, and if you go to NHL.com/Black Hockey History, you'll see some of the pieces that I did there with the Black Girl Hockey Club, Ryan Reeves. This year, again, we're just doing some more stories. I just did one about Shandor Alfonso, who's the second active Black referee in the National Hockey League. It's crazy, 100 years of the National Hockey League, there's only been 2 Black officials. So we're telling his story. And I got a couple other ones. I got one that was bubbling right now that, man, if we get this one going, they're gonna bug out. Can't really say anything about that right now, but
Gotcha.
I'm crossing my fingers that works. But we're doing a couple, we're gonna be shooting a couple things, doing some stuff with Seth Jones, and then I'm just trying to, keep telling the stories, man. There's a lot of stories that need to be told, and I'm just kind of blessed that the NHL has allowed me to be in a position where I can actually go in, pitch some ideas, and they're just like, love it, go.
Kwame, do you know if the NHL, and I don't know your involvement on the NHL level, I guess, obviously, but do you know if the NHL has ever reached out to like NASCAR's upper management to talk about this? Because they have a very similar issue as far as inclusion goes.
We were just in, I was just in Daytona
Nice.
for a diversity and inclusion summit. And I spoke there on a panel with a couple of people. I was actually on a panel with a guy who's like the first openly gay NASCAR driver. So, yeah, there is that synergy. There is that conversation going on. I know NASCAR is really active in trying to open up its market to minority communities. So they're doing a lot of cool things right now as well.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's nothing but positive can come out of that if everybody buys into it for sure. All right, my man. Hey, real quick, this is a fun fact for you. You grew up as an Edmonton Oilers fan, right?
Well, originally I was a Montreal Canadiens fan.
Okay.
I'll always represent my Toronto Maple Leafs, but I spent like 8 years in Edmonton, and my heart ran with the Oilers. So yeah.
Do you remember the name Kelly Buchberger?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, that might have been so.
It would have been cooler if you did.
It's kind of. I thought we had a connection because Kelly Buchberger used to play with Gretzky and Messier. Won the cups there with them. Kelly became the captain of the Oilers. I believe it was like 89, 90, maybe 91-ish for 2 years. He's now the head coach of the Tri-City Americans here, our local WHL team. Way. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's your fun fact for the day.
There's your fun fact for the day.
That's a good fun fact. There you go.
All right, my man. Well, I'm going to let you go, get back to your shopping and everything. I really, really appreciate you taking time with us today.
I'm sure security here thinks I'm stealing something, so I'm just wandering around.
God. That's sad. It makes me chuckle, but it's sad. All right, my man. I'll touch base with you again off air, but I really appreciate you, bud.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, guys. Thank you.
That was pretty awesome.
I love where that went, man.
He is honestly, it's not what I thought. And I'm white, and you can't hide that fact. So I have this preconceived notion, and I'm guilty of it, where I sit and think that because he is black and he is of maybe partial. Actually, he wouldn't be you people, because he is a Canadian. But anyways, you would think that
his family immigrated.
Yeah, that's actually accurate. But I don't know why I thought he would be totally blasting Don Cherry. But I forget, I don't have as much dealings with him as you do, but he's all about love and being a part of this community and sharing the love of hockey with everyone. And God, his insight, it opened up my eyes, and it's awesome. It's really cool.
It is, and the fact that you haven't seen the film, we're gonna have to.
Remedy that. It's on tap for sure.
Yeah,
since you brought it up last week. Oh, you do. Okay, I was just gonna try to find it for somewhere, but
no, we got it. We'll give it to you.
Yeah,
I'm
dying.
We can't have it, but you can borrow it.
I'm dying to see it. Yeah, I want to see.
It's really good, man. And it's such an important conversation to have. and there's and I like what he said. It's a conversation, you know. And we've talked about it many times. I mean, I do take a stand. I draw the line in the sand and say, if you're a racist fuck, I got time for you. You know, I believe that Kwame would sit down and have a conversation with that person.
Absolutely.
And for me, it would be hard to.
But I like what he said too. He's like, you know, he would sit down and have a conversation with Don Cherry or Joe Blow down the street. But then he has done his part, and he can walk away feeling like he did his job. Now it's on you, and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty powerful to be willing to have that conversation, because honestly, I think, like me, I'm guilty of it. I don't even want to have the conversation because it's like, I don't want to waste my breath. I don't want to waste my time. I've already written you off for being a racist fuck. I don't give a fuck. So be gone.
Well, and that's where he's exactly the kind of person that maybe the NHL or the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation should have as a consultant or on staff on how to, let's start leading the change.
Yes.
His perfect point was, the community, the minority community itself. He's saying they can't just sit there and wait for it to happen. So they need more leaders like him, hopefully, to be encouraged.
Yep.
And that's one of the big problems is they're not encouraged right now as a whole to get out there and start making a difference. And it really does start at the 8-year-old hockey rink here in Kennewick. And it's not going to come from the top.
No, that's one of the reasons, and I've been brainstorming for a while a way to get him out here to do it, because I think a lot of people, especially in this area, need to hear the message.
But damn, he was just here in Seattle. What? How long ago?
I don't know how long ago.
We need to keep track on his where he's going, because if he ever comes back out here, we can just bring him down here.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they put together that presentation for Buck O'Neill when he came in here, and he was the first African American manager in Major League Baseball.
Yes,
I remember the name.
He played in the Negro Leagues, and then he became the chairman of the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame. And he came down here and put a thing on it, Richland High Auditorium.
Okay,
it was like a 2-hour deal, and this was 10, 15 years ago, but it was amazing. And like I said, it was. And his message was beautiful.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of sitting with him prior to that because we had interviewed him. I was working on a sports talk radio show at that time, and it was no joke. It was literally a life-changing moment for me to hear those stories and what they had to go through to be viable, and then the legacy of it, keeping the legacy alive and still teaching. And he was the same exact way. It was all about love. He wasn't angry of having to, sleep outside on the bus because they were in a town where he couldn't go into a hotel room. It was just all about love and all about education. And so it just was like I was having flashbacks the whole time listening to Kwame, because it is the same message, and it just needs to be
told a lot more.
Absolutely.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that we were able to have him on, because our small little audience that we have can can listen and hear a little bit from him, because I think he's such a great guy and he has a lot to share.
Before we wrap up, I want you guys, because there is a lot of stories out there about Willie O'Ree, and Kwame's done a lot with Willie O'Ree. He was part of the spearhead to get Willie into the Hall of Fame finally, which just happened, I think, last year or the year before. Willie O'Ree, it was that epitome of love your neighbor. The guy was better than most of the players in the league, and it took him forever to crack that lineup. And he did it with one good eye. He was blind out of one eye, never told anybody, because he knew that would completely shut off his chances. Right. You look at the people that have really made a difference, somebody like Jackie Robinson, somebody like Willie O'Ree, Herb Carnegie, these players, I hate that they had to be so humble and so loving to get where they were, but they did, and they proved that was the right way to do it. So I would encourage anybody that's listening, check those names. Check the name Willie O'Ree, Herb Carnegie, who you were just talking about.
Buck O'Neill.
Buck O'Neill, which I've heard that name a lot. It makes me interested to check him out more. Learn, travel, do all that stuff, man. Today was definitely about hockey, but the deeper things that this sport can do good things for, Kwame's friends with Wayne Simmons. Wayne Simmons does a big street hockey tournament up in Toronto, I think Scarborough, if I remember right, but it's a more rundown part where Wayne grew up. PK, I believe, was in that area early on. But Wayne does a tournament every year, ball hockey tournament, that just raises money to help pay for these kids that would never have the chance. Hockey is an expensive sport. A lot of the kids that wouldn't have a chance come from poverty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But these players that step up and do these things to take away those barricades, that really is opening hockey to be for everyone.
I will say, too, even at our local level, I mentioned my son played youth hockey here with Takaha here in Tri-Cities, and there was some scholarships for families that couldn't pay the full boat. There was always hockey swaps, where you could pick up used gear at a good price. There was always people giving away gear that their kids had grown out of to kids that couldn't afford it. So at the local level here, it was encouraging in that aspect. Yeah. That if you really couldn't afford to outfit your kid in the safest gear and stuff, there was avenues to get it.
Good.
And it was encouraging, and it wasn't looked down upon or anything.
I think it's going to be exciting when the NHL team comes to Seattle and it's officially here because of all. I mean, if you think about Seattle, I mean, just my mind of Seattle is I always see homeless people everywhere. So, and there's certain areas that there's poor people. I mean, poor people. That sounds terrible, but there's poor, lower income kids and all that stuff. But like, if hockey NHL really jumps on board and each team starts really focusing on their area, how much more will this game grow? And it's gonna be so exciting, and
it will, and they have the NHL and the individual teams will, I'm sure, make a point and it's only going to be good for the Thunderbirds and the Americans and the WHL, the Everett. Like it's going to, that partnership is going to help. Just by sheer visibility, grow our little northwest corner here.
I think it's going to be amazing.
It's only going to be good.
And it's going to be an awesome rivalry between Vancouver and Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the rivalry between Seattle and San Jose has the possibility of heating up as well.
And even Vegas, too. I mean, it's going to be...
I can't wait.
It's going to be interesting. Got some natural rivals there. It's going to be fun.
2020, right?
2021.
Is that when they're going to officially be playing
2021
in the season?
They will be playing, yep.
Oh, my gosh.
Not this next summer, but the summer after, you'll have your expansion draft a few days before the actual draft, and then they'll start September.
The first season will be 21-22.
Yep.
That's going to be the first hockey season for us. So the fall of 2020, fall of 2021.
Yep.
Yes.
Is what we're counting down to. So.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
What I'm excited about is the wife and I just bought tickets to go to Philadelphia for a few days to go see a Flyers game.
Lucky duck.
Lower level, 13 rows up from the glass against the Bruins.
It's a Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, and Happy Anniversary.
For the next 5 years.
I'll tell my cousins to come show you around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be at Jim's for sure.
Get you some cheese.
Jim's.
There will be
Remember that.
There will be a diabetic cheat day at Jim's for sure.
Well, it's not like you're not going to be walking, you're going to be getting 20,000 steps in.
Yeah.
So
Heck
I ain't worried about that.
You can have a couple extra grams of carbs that day.
So that'll be my third trip to the Wells Fargo in Philadelphia, which is fun. And I will, every opportunity I have to go there, I will. But the fun part about it is going to be when NHL is 3.5 hours up the road.
Yeah.
In a couple seasons.
Woohoo!
And
we're going to be road tripping it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There'll
Road
be several
tripping,
times
boys.
a season. We got 41 games every year to choose from. We'll
Heck
get a
yeah.
couple of them in there.
Heck yeah.
So, well, this was I hate to use the word fun, but it was such a nice
Insightful.
change.
It was insightful.
It makes me want to go home and just read books now.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
be honest, that probably just sounds cheesy, but that's where I'm at right now. I want to know more.
It's all about knowledge, man.
Yeah.
People get scared of things that they don't know about.
It's very true.
Very true. People are scared of what's different. Man, it's so good. Well, you guys heard from Kwame. So if you're on our website and you see Soul on Ice stuff, Kwame is the man behind Soul on Ice. So buy T-shirt, buy hoodie, all that good stuff, stickers, everything. We've got hopefully some more down the road that we'll be doing. And if you haven't, check out Soul on Ice. It's on iTunes. It's on Amazon Video. I think you can get the Blu-ray of it. If not, you can definitely get it on digital media. Corey missed out today, man.
We missed you, Corey.
We did.
Hope the monkeys are feeling better.
Remember,
man.
if they're puking, keep your mouth closed. Okay, keep your mouth
Oh,
closed.
that is gross.
In fact, he needs to be quarantined. I don't want to see him the rest of the week.
For
That's
real.
accurate. I will not be here.
Stay home, Cage.
Yeah.
Quarantined.
Our youngest was sick last week, and we stayed away. So, all right. Anybody? Anything else we wanted to cover? Did you have any news you want to talk about, or is it just?
There was a trade for the Americans last night.
Yeah.
Glad you brought that up. Yeah, let's end on that note because that was quite surprising to me. I'm gonna believe it's an ice time issue. I'm gonna believe that, but it still makes me go.
Well, he said we got what, 8 or 9 forwards
16.
We have 16
or
forwards?
16 forwards. So, I mean, obviously they traded him
Yeah.
for nothing, an 8th rounder.
Eighth
I mean, it
rounder.
was just
To Prince George.
So that makes me do think that it probably was just because he's not getting ice time.
you
I
can't
thought
get
he
them
had
all
a-
on the ice, man. I mean, you really can't get them all out there.
I noticed we were there Saturday, and I was looking for Tyson Greenway to get some ice time. He wasn't. Now, Tyson's only 16, so I believe Kriva Krasov's 18, because this will be his 3rd WHL team. He was with Prince Albert, I believe, drafted him.
Yeah.
Then he got released. We brought him in for camp this year.
He
He
had-
looked good in camp.
And he had bounced between a couple of minor junior teams too. So
That's
it was,
right.
It was, one of those guys that's probably a borderline guy, probably not going to go to the next level, but can have a nice hockey career.
Yep.
And get college
So,
paid for.
I
Yep.
think he was, good on us really for recognizing that and getting him out to somewhere where he can get on the ice and
True story.
and play the game.
Prince George, we'll use him for sure.
Sure.
Prince George has got a lot to work on.
And when we're getting younger right now, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather honestly see some of these 16-year-olds out there getting some experience.
Absolutely. I'd rather take a season of a loss and then have these, 16, 17-year-olds get the ice time to really get out there and develop and get good and honestly get that chemistry on the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that Kriva Krasov is gone. We wish you the best up there in Prince George, also known as not God's country because it's so far north. Other than that, man, it's getting busy. The next couple of weeks, there's 5 games in 9 days.
That's awesome.
Home games here. So starting this Friday night, Saturday night, then next Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, there's games like crazy.
So show up and show out.
Yes.
And we had a Saturday night game against Spokane.
Ooh.
Thankful enough that Mr. Aaron had a couple ducats floating around for me.
I did.
And brought the family. We had a good time. But still a Saturday night against Spokane, and the place wasn't packed. I mean,
Yeah.
it was busy,
Yeah.
but there was some empty seats, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of orange.
You got to get to the poutineery. Get some poutine over at the Poutine Shack.
That place is awesome.
Those curds are so good.
And that's one of the places. That's one of the places that, as a diabetic, I can eat because they just serve the tri-tip with horseradish sauce.
Which is awesome.
True story. But if you add the gravy and the cheese curds and the fries.
It's not the best. It's not the best. But that tri-tip is really good.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Real quick, a cool storyline. Friday night, if you guys come out, the Winnipeg Ice will be making their first appearance at the Toyota Center
That's
ever.
accurate.
And
Oh, wow,
Peyton
yeah.
Krebs, who is the younger brother of Dakota Krebs. Dakota used to play for the Americans. He was
Yep.
part of the trade for Jake Bean a couple seasons ago. But Peyton just finished rehabbing his Achilles injury and just rejoined the Winnipeg Ice this past weekend. He was in Vegas for the last 5 months working with them to help rehab his injury.
Oh, wow.
Because he was a first-round pick by
Yeah,
the Vegas
yeah,
Golden
yeah.
Knights. So he will be in the building Friday.
Nice. We'll gotta keep tabs on him.
I'll be rooting for Peyton. And the Winnipeg Ice look a lot different than what the Kootenay Ice used to look like. They're good. They're really fucking
Ooh,
good.
So it should be fun.
Putting out a quality product.
Yes. So that will be fun. And then who do we play?
I'm going to miss saying Kootenay, though.
Kootenay.
Kootenay. Fun name.
Up
we
there
can
in
still say
Cranbrook.
Regina.
Regina spells fun.
Regina is fun.
Anyway, all right, guys. Thanksgiving next week. The show will be a little different, but next week is episode 50, so you want to check that out.
We might have some prizes.
This is the first I'm hearing.
I
about
know,
it.
right? But
Friday,
we might, so be sure to listen.
This Friday will be the second episode of the West Side Story with Dan Brown, so check that out. And next week for the 50th episode, we have a special guest. Drum roll. Jordan Topping. Former Tri-City American, played here through his 20. He is now playing for the Allen Americans in the ECHL, where he is leading their scoring.
Solid.
Nice.
Yeah. So been trying to get him for months, and it finally worked out that we'll be doing a phone call with him. So excited to talk his time here in Tri-Cities. I have a question.
Is that your fireside chat that you'll have?
That'll be my fireside chat. Yeah. We had somebody else I'm working on too. Can't really talk about that right now.
I can't even think of who it is.
Actually, I can't even think of who it is. Who have I been talking to recently?
I don't know.
It's a mystery.
It is a mystery. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. I'm getting old. Anyway,
Accurate.
that will do it for episode 49 of Cascadia Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Buried Puck Threads. Oh, we do have to say thank you very much to Adventures Underground for
Yes.
letting us use their facilities here. 1391
1391 George Washington Way.
GWA.
Buy
Thank
all
you.
the comic stuff.
Comics, music, all of it, dude.
And the pop
I'm
thingies.
spending way too much money in this
Hey,
place
but it's for
recently.
Christmas. Our kid is into Spider-Man, so I'm like,
Solid.
let me buy all the Spider-Man comics.
Record Store Day is Black Friday.
Yep.
So they'll be
Yeah.
open at
11:29.
8 a.m.
They're going to open at 8 a.m. Yep.
Oh, cool. I
Awesome.
saw that. So that is an hour early.
An hour early for the cat. Well, yeah, an hour early. Yes.
For the cafe side,
Yes.
yeah.
8 a.m. Come by if you want to say hi. I'll be in line.
Derek will be there for sure. I might make an appearance that morning. We'll see.
I asked you not to make me go.
Did I say you? I said
Yeah.
I
Okay.
might make
I'll
an
just give you the
appearance
money
that
to go buy
morning.
all the stuff I want.
There you go.
We'll have to. The list will be out. We're not. The cool thing about Record Store Day, though, is what I love is you got this long ass list. You never know what's actually going to be there.
That's true.
also
So come
true.
by Adventures Underground.
And there is some Wu-Tang on the list, I believe.
Woohoo!
All right, everybody. Check us out, buriedpuck.com, all over the social medias. Anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Peace
night,
out.
Check out
everybody.
Garagerama Podcast. It's a
Yeah.
fun time for all you horror and music fans. And we'll say sayonara till next week. 1, a 2, a 3.
I'm going to come up with something different.
Slay all of these slaves.
Strange famous epic beard man.
Bonus round. Too bad you fucked up. Bloodshot, it can't be all about flow. No advantage, no cheat code.